In this video, I'll discuss the object tools in Adobe InDesign CC 2015. When you're designing publications, it's very important to be able to use certain assets, drawing assets like lines, shapes like rectangles and circles and so on. And they have several purposes. The first is to separate objects. The second is to add a sense of continuity. And the third is to provide a sense of visual appeal. Now, InDesign has several great object drawing tools, and let's start with the line tool. It's right here in the toolbox. I'll go ahead and select it, and then click and drag and release the mouse. Now, notice how that line is obviously not straight. This is a rule, and a rule is a graphic designer's term meaning a straight line, and they're often used to separate things like the banner and the rest of the content on the page, for instance, or separate columns if they're vertical rules. And what I did here was intentionally draw an angled line because we don't want to use that as a rule. You certainly can draw angled lines, and there are plenty of good reasons to do so. But let's show that again. And this time, when I click and hold the mouse button and drag over, I'm going to intentionally put it on an angle, and then release, and then hold down the Shift key. And notice how it constrains it to a perfectly straight line. I'll release the Shift key and show you. So I'm holding the mouse up here, and when I hold down Shift, it makes a straight line. So I'll release, and there's our straight line or our rule. It also works with vertical rules too. So I'll click and draw an angle, and hold down Shift, and notice how it's gone on a 45-degree angle. So I can actually draw a 90-degree angle. I'm holding down Shift right now, a 45-degree angle, or just straight 0-degree angle like that. So you can draw vertical rules holding down the Shift key just as easily. Now, if you want to edit the rule after you've created it, go ahead and choose the Direct Selection tool. Notice how there are 3 anchor points, one here, and one here. This one and this one control the shape itself. This one, if I try to click on it or select it, it's just going to allow me to move it with the selection tool or the direct selection tool. If I highlight this one, I can change the rule. I'll go ahead and do the same down here just to show you how you can change that shape. So that's how that works with the direct selection tool. I'm going to go ahead and highlight those and delete them and show you the other object tools, because now we have things like rectangles. I'll go ahead and click and hold this, ellipses, and polygons. And notice, by the way, there are 2 tools here. We have the rectangle frame tool group and the rectangle tool group, the difference being the word frame. And the frame has an X through it. Now, they're exactly the same shapes. I'll click and hold this one and show you that we have a rectangle, ellipse, and polygon, but no X through them. Now, there's a very minor difference between these 2 tools. The frame tools, the ones with the X's through them, are meant to be containers. The shape tools, the rectangle, ellipse, and polygon tools, are meant to be graphical objects. Now, you can actually use either for containers, and there's a very minor distinction between the 2. Really, when you draw, for instance, a rectangle frame, I'll go ahead and select that and click and draw. Notice how we have an X through it. If I select the rectangle tool and click and draw, release the mouse button, there's no X through it. And that's the only difference, because you can apply transformations to these objects in the same way. I'll go ahead and just resize this a bit. There we go. So for instance, if I select this one and apply a fill color, very easy to do. Same thing with the stroke. I'll go ahead and apply a magenta stroke, make it a little bit thicker so you can see it. And the same thing down here. I'll apply a fill and apply a stroke. Change the thickness of that stroke. So you can use both, and just be aware that it's sort of more of a form type approach to this, meaning that the best practice here is to use the one with the X through it for creating content containers, and this one for creating pure objects. But again, you can use both in similar manners. Now, I'll go ahead and select the ellipse and click and draw. And notice that when I'm drawing, I am drawing an ellipse here. It's not a perfect circle. But just like with the line tool, and this works with any tool, including the rectangle, if I hold down Shift, it's going to constrain it to a perfect circle. So I'm holding down Shift. I'll go ahead and release now, and I've created a perfect circle. You can always modify the dimensions of objects Using the control panel, you can see the width and height values are exactly the same here. I could modify those manually to stretch it or to compress it if I wanted to. So these are the basic tools for drawing objects in InDesign. It's a good place to start when you start to understand how to lay out publications, especially when you're working with things like rules or graphic containers that contain things like pictures or inset text and things like that. They're quite easy to use. And just understand there is a basic and very minor distinction between the frame tools and shape tools. But once you get the hang of these, it's really fun to start to lay them out in InDesign and add them to your publications to give them some graphic visual appeal.